This video is going to cover the installation of a Holley Terminator X on John's Duster. And the specifics of this application, the Terminator X has a lot more features and capability than we'll be using, predominantly because we're running an MSD ready-to-run distributor. We're not using transmission control from the Terminator X. We're using the Throttle Body Terminator X and not the one that has the injectors wired directly to the heads. So a lot of the wiring in this harness is not going to be used. So let's go through the parts. This is the Terminator X upside down. This is the control box, which will be mounted under the dash inside the car to keep it away from the heat. This is the harness that will connect to the X inside the car, go through the firewall, and then continue around until it connects to the bulkhead connector on the Terminator X. So let's cover the specifics. On the bottom of the throttle body assembly, there's 3 hose connections. One is for the PCV valve. We're going to use this. It's going to be connected to the fixed orifice PCV valve on the passenger side valve cover. The next one is the distributor advance curve. The MSD ready-to-run distributor that we're using has the vacuum canister removed. We're only running mechanical timing, centrifugal advance, so this plug can stay on the unit. This port is for the map sensor, which is going to be connected to the ECU on the inside of the car. This is the map sensor connection. We'll need a hose. There's 3 different fittings in the kit to allow you to size it to the proper hose, which will then come through the firewall and connect directly to here. The map sensor is actually in this unit, but we need to get the signal from the throttle body base. These 2 connections plug directly into the Terminator X control box. This is the power connection for the Terminator X. So this plugs into the box. This cable will be routed to the battery in the trunk down the driver's side sill plate through the back seat and into the trunk. There is a fuse pre-installed on this. As we go down this cable through the firewall, we'll find some additional connections. This is the fuel pump relay, and this is the fuel pump fuse. There's a 20 amp fuse already installed in here. This is the ignition switch. So for the unit to power itself up and go to work, it needs to see the ignition on. But on Chrysler ignitions, on old cars, there's 2 different functions on the ignition switch, run and crank. There's a relay installed on the firewall that actually takes both of those connections and gives one output signal that's connected to a clean 12-volt source. That's what this needs to be connected to. This is a CAN bus, and it's actually going to be used for the display that goes in the car. This is also a CAN bus, but it has no application, so we'll just keep it unused. The kit comes with the temperature sensor that goes into the intake manifold. If we come around the cable, we have a couple of additional connection taps that come off of it. This one is a power tap that's used for accessories. It's got 12 volts plus 5 volts ground and one other connection. We're not using this. This is the inputs and outputs cable. This is for transmission control, AC clutch, turn off, and some other items. There's nothing on here that we need to use. As we come through here, we do have a harness of loose wires, and there's most of what's in here needs to be connected. So the yellow wire is the signal from the tach, and it gets connected to the coil minus. So this is what's going to be triggering the injectors to fire. The white wire is not used in this application. The green wire is actually the 12-volt output that goes to the fuel pump. So the fuel pump is already wired up to the front of the car, so this will need to be connected to that circuit. This 12-volt goes direct to the battery in the back of the car, so it will need to have an extension wire connected to it. This is your battery 0 connection, the black wire. The manual says you can hook it to the chassis ground. I think that's a bad idea. It probably should also be run all the way back to the battery or connected up to the distribution block on the driver's inner fender. And it's possible that this red wire could be connected there too, but I need to double check that and see if they specifically call out a battery connection. Normally they want you to go straight to the battery for this. This is the connector that goes into the throttle body. This is a second connector that would be used also for ignition if we were using an aftermarket ignition system like the Holley system, where the advance curve and other timing functions are actually controlled, but we're not using any of this because we're running an MSD ready to run distributors, so all the functions for the ignition timing are completely standalone. This connection is for a remote map sensor, which we're not using. We're using the map sensor that's built into the control unit, and we're getting a map signal from the base of the unit. This connection is for the O2 sensor that's in the driver's side header on the collector. And it has the sensor, and then it has an extension cable before it actually comes up and plugs into the main harness. Also coming out of this main harness are these 3 items. The oil sensor, we are not going to be using that because we have an oil pressure gauge, so we don't need it on the dashboard. Coolant temperature sensor we do need to use. So this currently is in the thermostat housing. And this is fuel pressure, which is not needed. This is just for display purposes. We do have a gauge connected to the output of the filter on the passenger side fender, and that's probably sufficient for what we're doing.